Hi, welcome to the channel, Films with Dan. I've retitled it. I've relaunched it, so to speak, and I've done it purely because I wanted to for a while, and also out of respect and in the memory of David Stratton, who was a film reviewer that I absolutely loved, and I think we all did in Australia. He certainly dictated, well, not dictated, that's the wrong word. He certainly guided us to some great films, and I think in the early 90s, when I was wanting to check out some more interesting films, it was always David and Margaret's reviews on SBS and on the ABC that really inspired. So for you, David and Vale, rest in peace, and I'm going to start it with a film he would have liked. Wake in Fright. This has literally only just come out in the last month or so from an Australian label, Umbrella Entertainment. Madman, another great Australian company, brought out this Blu-ray a few years ago now, and they obviously lost the rights because Umbrella have picked it up. They've brought it out in this beautiful slipcover, which is absolutely nice. I love collecting physical media, and I really also I get stuff on digital as well, but it's nice to just sort of grab something and that's yours. You own it. And that's the cover inside. Now, this film, Wake in Fright, I had it upside down there. It's a 4K disc, so you get the 4K and the Blu-ray. And Umbrella, like a few of the Australian companies, have a reversible sleeve in them as well, which has the Australian rating, the big dark, the big colourful rating. I might talk about that in another video as to why Australia has this big colourful rating on all their physical media. But anyway, this film, it came out in 1971 and it was directed by Canadian Ted Kotcheff. Now, he was basically showing an Australia that wasn't being recognised by Australians. And what I say is that it's a bit of a nightmarish look, the way Australians, especially Australian men, behaved, the way they drank, the way they had this intimidating hospitality, the way women were just like almost a second-class citizen because they had, and it's very male. There's only one female character in this. But anyway, the story, because you just want to hear me rabbit on about this. I want to talk about the story, which is about this English school teacher who is in this Tabunda, this tiny little, there's nothing. It's barely got a pub, and it's barely got like a school, and he's a school teacher there. And he has to do his time in the outback because he has to pay $1,000 bond, or they give him $1,000 bond, or something like that. And he pays it off by working in the country towns before he can get allocated the city. He's going to go to Sydney for the school holidays, the summer school holidays. So this film already looks hot, and with the 4K, you can almost smell the sweat. And he goes to this town called Bundinyabba, which is the local town. He catches the train there, and Bundinyabba is a town where everyone seems to like it. Best little town in the world. You wouldn't want to leave. That's what we'll tell him. But this guy finds he almost can't leave. He gets sort of coerced into playing two up, which is a gambling game here in Australia. 2 coins on a piece of wood. Someone stands in the middle of a pit, so to speak, people around him, and flips the coins. They've got to flip, and the land heads win, tails win, whatever you bet on. If it's a split vote, then you've got to throw it again. He gets introduced to this by the local town copper, played by Chips Rafferty, who was an Australian icon. He just played these real Australian roles, but generally the hero. But you don't know whether this guy's the villain or whether he shows him like the pub is meant to be closed, but it's still open, pouring beers for all these hundreds of men who are working in this town. And the school teacher goes there, gets into the game at 2 up, and he wins. And he thinks, great. He goes back to his hotel room and he thinks, if I win some more money, I can pay off the $1,000 and I never have to come back here ever again. What do you know? He loses all his money because gambling. and he has to spend the weekend in Bundanyaba because he can't get any money until he goes to the labour exchange on the Monday morning. And this is basically a weekend where he descends into hell. I'll read you the back of this because this is kind of cool. It says, have a drink, mate. All the little devils are proud of hell. New to the Yabba. Drink it all in with this world first 4K Dolby Vision release of Wake in Fright from Umbrella's new restoration. Raw and uncompromising in its depiction of Australian masculinity and country culture, Ted Kotcheff's Wake in Fright is a unique horror film. In equal parts, an ode to the outback and bloody nightmare. And I can tell you now, that is all true. Now, this film was lost for decades because when it came out, it didn't do well. I'm going to put it back in its slipcase here while I'm talking about this. It did not do well at all because Australians looked at it and thought, that's not us. We don't behave like that. Well, even in the 80s, I'm going to the country towns. It was still pretty much like what it is in Wake in Fright. Very male drinking culture. It was a little bit of a shock to a wimpy city boy, I suppose, like myself. So anyway, it was lost. And someone found a print of this in a cinema in Philadelphia. I believe it was Philadelphia. I know it was the East Coast of the United States. And the the Film Archive in Australia found it and they restored it. Now, it came out in a Blu-ray and you could buy it digitally. There was a remake for television. I didn't watch it, but I heard it was pretty good. But this is like watching this film brand new, as all 4Ks do, because anything that was shot on film, on Blu-ray and on 4K just look fantastic. Stuff on digital will always look pretty good, but the old movies shot on film just look amazing on 4K. And so now we can have this, we can own this. And that's what I love about it, because I feel like this and all this stuff behind me is an archive. I'm keeping an archive of film and television, so to speak. This to me is, I'm a curator. I like to think of myself as a curator and want to be a film historian. This film, though, is a great one. If you are very squeamish, there is a scene in the middle of the film involving a kangaroo hunt. It's rather controversial. If you're squeamish about that sort of thing and you find that stuff disturbing, I'd probably give it a wide berth. But anyone else who is interested in Australian film culture, just film in general, this to me is probably one of the greatest Australian films ever made. It's one of my all-time favourite films. And I highly recommend Wake in Fright. Thanks for watching. And if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Please leave a comment. Tell me if you like any Australian films that you may dig or not. And if you like any certain labels, and I do like some of the boutique labels in Australia, I do want to talk about them because I think there's about 3 labels that are doing something very unique and very good in the world of physical media and 4K. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon.